Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Savannah. I'm the Reverend Lisa Day. Our worship associate this morning is Evelina Erickson. Working to build a diverse, multicultural, and beloved community, we celebrate the presence and participation of all, regardless of race, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability, ethnic, or national origins. We welcome you on YouTube and here in the sanctuary, whoever you know yourself to be and wherever you are on your journey. If you're visiting with us and would like to introduce yourself, we have a couple of ways to do that. If you are visiting with us remotely, please put your name in the chat and I will share it with the group. If you're in the sanctuary this morning and would like to introduce yourself, please rise or raise your hand and Dorothy will bring you a microphone. Are there any visitors on this side? Okay. And on this side? And there are no visitors on chat. It is good to have you all with us. Please join us in the social hall for refreshments following the service if you're here on site. You'll find the social hall in the next building by following the crowd through this door or the main doors, or ask the ushers. 2 cards in the pew back in front of you help us gather information for the good of our community. Use the Rainbow Chalice card, either the QR code or the space on the back, to give us your information if you'd like the newsletter or a letter from the minister. Remote visitors may contact our administrator via the email address in chat. To share a joy or sorrow, please use the card with the red heart and chalice. Remote participants may type joys and sorrows in the chat and we will read them if you wish. If you fill out either card, please put it in the collection plate a little later this morning. Church announcements are emailed to members and friends on Tuesdays and Fridays. Please check your email for complete details about the following. Our Music Alliance invites you to join this afternoon at 3 p.m. for a holiday concert, A Diva's Christmas, featuring Jillian Durant and Megan Blanton will really get you in the holiday mood. Tickets will be available at the door for $30. The Green Team is happy to announce that we have received a GIPL, that's Georgia Interfaith Power and Light, PowerWise Energy Efficient Matching Grant in the amount of $5,000. These funds will offset the cost of converting most of our light sources to LED bulbs. Thanks to Kevin Ione for applying for the grant and to Bill Rolfs who helped make it all happen, and everyone who has already pitched in to switch out some of the bulbs. Small group discussions regarding a vote next spring about whether or not to call me as a settled minister continue. We've had several of them. There are several more scheduled and more will be scheduled in the new year. You can find more information in the weekly blasts and in the newsletter, and there are sign-up sheets in Ron Hall. With the lighting of our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, we enter sacred time. Our chalice lighter this morning is Katie Hay Leo. The darkness of the whole world cannot swallow the glowing of a candle. Ellis Thomas, along with his dad Isaac, will light our candles this second Sunday in the season of Advent. In the Christian tradition, Advent is the beginning of the church year, recognizing the transformative power of God in the world and looking forward to the birth of Jesus and the celebration of spiritual light. Of course, Christianity is not alone in celebrating light at this time of year. Hanukkah, solstice, and Kwanzaa all involve candles, fire, and lights as part of their celebration. The circle of greenery around our Advent candles reminds us of the eternal cycle of all life, without beginning or end, and the candles remind us that we are each called to emit our glow amid the pain and suffering facing our world. The light of Advent grows brighter and brighter, guiding us toward personal peace, shared joy, and more love. This morning, we light the second candle as a symbol of our longing for peace. We bring hope into the world when we practice peacemaking. Our caring community aspires to be a source of freedom from violence and exclusion. May we become the ones we are waiting for. Together, may we create a lasting peace. Still ours the dance, the feast, the glorious psalm, the mystic lights of the emblems and the word. Please rise in spirit or in body for our hymn number 223, Rock of Ages. Time for our story. Anyone who would like to see the pictures may come forward. Our story this morning, Northern Lights, a Hanukkah story. Far north in Alaska, December is a month of darkness. The sun sleeps all day below the horizon. Sudden winds kick snow into house-sized drifts. One afternoon, pilot Joe Anaruk set his small plane down at the airstrip of a Yupik Eskimo village in the near the frozen Bering Sea. Blowing too hard, he told his two passengers as he pushed open the door of the plane. We won't fly out again until the wind lays down. Dr. Israel pulled his hood around his face and helped his daughter down the steps. He knew storms from his many trips as a traveling doctor for the small villages. Then we won't get home for Hanukkah, Daddy, Sarah worried aloud. It was winter vacation, and Dr. Israel had brought her with him to see a new place. You'll stay at my mother's house while we go to the clinic, Joe reassured Sarah. She's also named Sarah Anaruk. A line of streetlights glowed in the swirling snow, reminding Sarah of the silver menorah at home with its curved branches. She clung to her father's hand as they pressed against the wind, inching toward a half-buried cabin. Outside the door, a dog curled nose to tail, raised his head, and howled a warning. Joe pushed open the door and an elderly lady pulled them inside. She was wearing a colorful long blouse called a kuspuk. Joe introduced everyone. My mother doesn't speak English, he explained, but I'll send my daughter Norma over. Dr. Israel kissed Sarah goodbye. I'll be back as soon as I've seen the patients. Come back soon, she said in her bravest sounding voice. Mrs. Anaruk patted the girl's red hair and then her own gray hair. Sarah, she laughed, turning to her kitchen stove. Sarah recognized the smell of oil warming in a pan. It reminded her of Hanukkah latkes frying. A salik, the woman said. She pinched a ball of dough from a bowl and stretched it between twisted fingers. The thin biscuit sizzled when she slipped it into the hot oil. Sarah thought about her family preparing for Hanukkah back home in the city. Her sister Rachel always grated the onions and potatoes for the latkes. Sarah's job was to beat the eggs, but her brother Mark was old enough to do that now. Her mother would mix it all together and do the frying. Sarah had never been away from home on Hanukkah before. The cabin door burst open and a girl in a fur parka blew in on a gust of wind. She stamped her mucklucks and shook her hood, making a miniature indoor snowstorm. I'm Norma, she said, and she grabbed a piece of fried bread from the plate on the stove. Oi, that's hot, she exclaimed and broke off half for Sarah. Just then, the lights went out. Here comes the storm, Norma announced. Mrs. Anaruk rattled around in the dark. A minute later, a flashlight beam turned the girls into giant wall monsters. She spoke in throaty Yupik words. Norma translated. Grandma says when she was little, the dark months were a time for story. I can tell you the story of Hanukkah, Sarah offered. What's Hanukkah? Norma asked. Oh, my book is old and falling apart. Sarah made her shadows loom menacingly on the wall. This is wicked King Antiochus, she began. Long ago in a faraway land, he destroyed the Jewish temple and made my people bow down to Greek gods. Wait, Norma said, my turn. Norma made shadows too as she translated Sarah's words for her grandmother. Sarah took a spatula from the stove and waved it over her head like a sword. The Jews fought back and drove Antiochus from the land. To give thanks that the war was over, they rebuilt the temple and prepared to relight the menorah. Sarah waited for Norma to repeat her words in Yupik, then lifted up the bottle of oil. Even though they could only find a small amount of special oil for the menorah, it miraculously burned for 8 nights. That's why we celebrate Hanukkah and light candles for 8 nights. With her fingers, Sarah made a menorah on the wall. My thumb is the shamus, the helper candle we use to light the others. We light one candle on the first night, 2 the second, 3 the third, and so on, until we have all of them burning at once. When the girls finished the story, old Sarah shuffled over to the window ledge. She picked up a heavy black stone and placed it in young Sarah's hand. It looked like half an avocado with the seed scooped out. This is an oil lamp, Norma explained. Long ago, Yupik people burned seal oil on dark winter nights. Norma turned to her grandmother. Do you think it still works? Mrs. Anorak spooned some of the oil from the frying pan into the stone lamp. She tore off a narrow strip of cotton cloth from an old dish towel and twisted it into a worm-like wick. Norma put the tail of the wick in the oil and propped its head on the edge of the stone. She handed Sarah a box of wooden matches. Sarah struck one and touched it to the oil. A yellow flame darted forth, then settled to a faint blue glow. Baruch atah Adonai, she began reciting the candle-lighting prayer in Hebrew. Blessed are you, O Lord. The light danced on the faces of the 2 girls. Suddenly, the door opened. Electricity's out all over the village, Joe the pilot reported as he came into the house. The wind blew down a pole, added Dr. Israel, following behind. Sarah smiled. Look, Daddy, we made a menorah. An Eskimo menorah, Norma explained. Sarah Anorak put out plates of boiled salmon and fried bread. Norma poured hot spiced tea. The 5 of them ate dinner in the glow of the ancient stone lamp. Suddenly, as the wind came, it died away. Norma and Sarah looked out the window at the silent black village as the evening sky came alive with quivering bands of color. Quiriac, said the old woman. Northern lights, Joe explained. Norma shivered. Grandma says those are spirits that dance in the sky. Sarah hugged her new friend. I think the heavens are lighting an enormous menorah just for us. Thank you for listening. We will sing you on your way.
The purpose of the church is to encourage all who gather to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all the world's faith traditions, to bring the human being closer to the divine acts of creation and compassion. We now take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering that will support this self-supporting church and its many ministries. The gifts of the congregation will most gratefully be received. To donate via text or credit card, please use the QR code on the back of your order of service, or go to www.uasavannah.org and click on the donate button. And of course, mailed checks are also welcome. Thank you for your generosity.
In
Okay, we do have a few joys and sorrows today. An anonymous sorrow, please extend extra love to Mark Colomb. This one is not marked joy or sorrow, so we'll see. From Clint Tawes, today is my last service here before I move to Charleston to help care for my mother. I will miss all of you. And also from Mark Colomb, send healing energy for my elder brother, Gary. He will undergo tricky surgery tomorrow morning. Let us hold all of our joys and sorrows, spoken and unspoken, in our hearts as we join together in the responsive reading found in your order of service. Sorrow is everywhere, yet joy is reborn. As we mourn together, so we celebrate together and offer thanks that we are not alone. So it may be now and in all the days to come.
Let us continue in a spirit of meditation. Mysteries are threats, problems to be solved in order that an individual or community can be returned to safety, or so books, television, and movies would have us believe. And it is so that in real life, events similar to those in books, television, and movies are indeed problems to be solved. But life holds so many mysteries. When and how did the universe come into existence? Why do we fall in love with the people we do? How is it that such vast physical and temperamental differences exist between even the most closely biologically related family members? Where beyond Earth does life exist? Does human life have meaning? If so, what is it? Is it the same for all of us? What happens after death? How does one small drop of oil burn so long? Surely these are not at their core problems to be solved in order to assure the immediate safety of individuals or communities or even humankind, though curiosity remains strong in our species and the desire to understand more and ever more is holy. But mostly these mysteries and others are harbingers of holy possibility. When we don't know who or how or why or even when, then the limits of our understanding and even our imagination dissolve. Life becomes charged with potency. Associations, cause and effect, ravelings and unravelings, serendipity, mutations, reversals and spirals and shifting planes. All this and more might emerge when mystery is not a problem to be solved, but possibility allowed to unfold. Amen. Our first reading this morning, The River of Torah, is told by Barbara Diamond Golden in While the Candles Burn. Long ago, during the time of Roman rule over the land of Israel, the Jewish people were forbidden by the Emperor Hadrian to practice their religion. They could not study the Jewish teachings called Torah, or observe the Sabbath, or recite their prayers. Disobedience was punishable by death. One of the most famous Jewish teachers of this time was Rabbi Akiva. Despite the Roman decrees, he still gathered the people together to study the holy words, for he believed that study leads to the practice of good deeds and to a life rich in the ways of the Torah. Another sage, Pappus ben Judah, came to Rabbi Akiva one day while he was teaching some of his disciples. "You should not be teaching Torah in public like this," Pappus ben Judah said. "If the Roman government finds out, you and all your students will be killed." "I'm sorry, Pappus ben Judah, but I do not agree with you," Rabbi Akiva answered. "Let me tell you a story. If you listen, you will see why." Then Rabbi Akiva began. Once a sly fox was walking by the banks of a river. He noticed large groups of fish going from one place to another, their scales glinting as they darted about in the light of the sun. The fox's stomach grumbled at the sight of all that tasty fish. "Aha," he thought, "lunch." The fox bent down over the bank and called to a group of fish. "Why are you rushing about so?" he asked them. "To escape the nets of the fishermen," they answered. "We must be quicker than they." "You have no need of fear," answered the fox. "Just come up here on the dry land and stay with me. Then you will be safe from the fishermen's nets." The fish did not hesitate with their answer. "We may be fish and not sly foxes, but we are not fools. This water is our home. If we went up onto the dry land away from the water, we would not be able to live. We would surely die." "We are just like the fish," Rabbi Akiva said to Pappus ben Judah. "The life of the Torah is for us like the water is for the fish. If we were to leave the life of the Torah, which nourishes us and keeps us alive, to enter the dry land of the Romans, how much worse off would we be?" Then the rabbi turned away from Pappus ben Judah, who could not think of one more word to say. Once more, Akiva faced his students to continue the study of the holy words from the river of Torah. In our second reading, Hanukkah, from Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Lynn Unger. "Come down from the hills, declare the fighting done. Be bold, declare victory even when the temple is wrecked and the tyrants have not retreated, only coiled back like a snake prepared to strike again. Come down. Try to remember a life gentled by daily acts of domestic faith, the pot set to boil, the bed made up, the table set in calm expectation that when the sun sets, we will still be here. Come down and settle. Unlearn the years of hiding. Light fires that can be seen for miles, that dance and spark and warm the frozen marrow. Set lamps in the windows. Declare your presence, your loyalties, the truths for which you do not expect to have to die. It would take a miracle, you say, to carve such a solid life out of the shell of fear. I say you are the stuff from which such miracles are made. Here in the readings. Please rise in spirit or in body for our hymn number 92, Mysterious Presence, Source of All. I was first introduced to the Jewish Festival of Lights in Unitarian Universalist Sunday School. We made tiny menorahs out of modeling clay and birthday cake candles. And we took home a mimeographed sheet of readings to accompany the lighting of the tiny Hanukkah candles. Throughout my early years of congregational ministry, I preached annually on Hanukkah themes, chose Hanukkah stories and music for worship, and lit menorahs in my home and in my churches. One of my own Hanukkah sermons was even picked up and published by a denominational publication. Doing all of this, I believed I was acting with integrity, embracing and embodying one of our many sources, and perhaps I was. But eventually, the same sort of unease that led me to discontinue participation in the once popular Unitarian Universalist tradition of the so-called Thanksgiving Seder, almost immediately upon my entry into parish ministry, that same discomfort began calling me to rein in my Hanukkah activities. It's complicated, this discomfort. It grows mostly from trying to achieve a delicate balance. One of our core values, and the characteristic by which we are perhaps best known outside of Unitarian Universalism, is our embrace of the many and various paths to wisdom and truth. If you turn to our UUA statement of purpose and principles near the front of your gray hymnal, you'll find the sources of our living tradition about halfway down the page. Among them is Jewish and Christian traditions which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. It's right there in black and white for all to see. And it makes sense, really, that it's there. It's almost a no-brainer, you could say, for our denominational and theological roots are firmly entrenched in the Judeo-Christian tradition. And that historical fact, by the way, won't change with the upcoming revision to the languages of Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, which include the principles and the purposes. But also, with good reason, it is the one source out of that whole list of sources we seem most likely to ignore, almost like ostriches with our heads in the sand. So many Unitarian Universalists have such negative prior life experience with Christianity. We've joined Unitarian Universalist congregations in order to shake the dust of those experiences from our sandals, and we don't like to acknowledge or even admit that there is wisdom, truth, beauty, and goodness to be found in Christianity, just as there is in any of the sources we claim. As a whole, in some congregations more than other, we avoid Christian scripture and Christian language and Christian rituals. Christmas, we like. But the fact that we like Christmas is incongruent with our general disavowal of Christianity, and that makes us, or at least some of us, decidedly uneasy. So in response to that incongruence and disease, we tend to go overboard on Hanukkah, as if to say, it's okay, we're doing Christmas because look, we're doing Hanukkah too. Now, Hanukkah is a fine festival. It commemorates the Maccabee rebels' victory over Syrians in the year 165 before the Common Era, and the subsequent rededication of the temple in Jerusalem, as we heard in the story. One small amphora of oil was found amidst the devastation, holding oil just enough to burn for one night in the menorah. Nevertheless, it lasted long enough for the flames to burn for 8 nights. Thus, the phrase most familiarly associated with Hanukkah, a great miracle happened here. That's the story in broad strokes, the one many non-Jews know. What I find fascinating about the account of the Maccabees, however, is that the Syrians not only had might and power on their side, but their culture was also tremendously attractive too. Some Jews converted willingly. Contemporary Jewish storytellers and comedians still remark on the desirability of bacon and other tempting innovations available to those willing to forsake their religious traditions. Resisting temptation, however, and surviving coercion, the Maccabees kept their faith and maintained their identity, as Jews have time and again throughout their history. So when Hanukkah lights shine the world over for 8 nights, as they are now, they are more than a mere remembrance of a long ago miracle. They are a symbol of Jewish triumph over assimilation. Some catchy music, some tasty treats, fried treats in honor of all that oil, a gambling game, always bewitching candlelight, and even a small gift or 2 or 8 for the children. What's not to like about Hanukkah? But it's not a big religious or cultural deal. It's not a particularly holy time of the year for Jews. The high holy days of autumn, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and Passover in the spring are the most sacred festivals of the year. Hanukkah is not a Jewish equivalent of Christmas. As one Jew observed recently, it's pretty low in the canon and elevated only because it's next to the baby Jesus on the calendar. Therein lies the first problem with throwing Hanukkah into the holiday mix in an attempt to counterbalance the Christianness of Christmas with a holiday from another tradition, that the two holidays are not of equal weights theologically or culturally. So as always happens with the inclusion of a token of any kind, the perceived supremacy of the dominant element is highlighted and intensified rather than diluted. There is a second, more significant, more complicated challenge to be considered when adding Hanukkah to a Unitarian Universalist liturgical calendar, if it is not done very carefully and thoughtfully. This second challenge involves striking a different kind of balance. On the one hand, offering a depth and breadth of religious experiences that are reflective of the range of styles and theologies beloved by and comfortable for all within our congregation and those who might wish to join us in our free and welcoming faith. And on the other hand, striving to hold fast to a respectful, vigilant refusal to misappropriate the words, music, and rituals of other religions and cultures. David and I have this conversation at least twice a month as we plan our music for worship. A nearly lifelong Unitarian Universalist minister and a Jewish music director who has served as many years in Christian and Unitarian Universalist churches as in Jewish synagogues. And we don't ever agree in the end about what's misappropriation and what's not. When our current hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition, the gray one, was in the works more than 30 years ago, the Hymn Book Commission, heeding the rather crude complaint about too much stuff from dead white guys, kind of like we've sung this morning, deliberately included tunes and lyrics from many ages, cultures, countries, and religions. The more recent supplement, Singing the Journey, resulted from a desire to widen our musical range beyond even that of the hymnal. Both have met with mixed reviews. Sadness at the disappearance of beloved tunes and lyrics, and let's not talk about the Christmas hymns. Delight at new and interesting tunes, new and moving lyrics. Frustration at the difficulty of learning unfamiliar and sometimes downright difficult rhythms and melodies. And then there is the one objection that strikes fear in the heart of the Hymn Book Commission and ministers and worship leaders, that a song or a chant or other piece of music has been used, however unintentionally, in a manner that is disrespectful of or even damaging to the group, culture, or faith from which it was either borrowed or stolen, depending upon your perspective. We want to be generous and inclusive and respectful and understanding and healing, But we sometimes respond quickly from the heart without taking the time to respond with our heads, to look 3 or 4 steps down the road or around the bend, to follow the implication of our decisions both backward and forward in time, to really understand where they began and where they might lead. The following is a brief excerpt from a uuworld.org piece written by Tom Stites about events at the 2006 General Assembly in St. Louis, Missouri. Stites writes, "Since 1998, the General Assembly opening ceremonies have included a greeting from Native American representatives representing the tribes whose lands have been taken to make way for the host city. The greeting was intended as a gesture of respect and acknowledgement of multiculturalism. But in 2006, tribal representatives offered a lesson instead of a welcome. The Osage people, who once inhabited 200 million acres that included St. Louis, were long ago removed to a reservation in Oklahoma, and none could be found in the St. Louis area. Linda Friedman, chair of the General Assembly Planning Committee, told the crowd at the opening ceremony that when Osage members in Kansas City were invited, they responded, 'Why should we drive 4 hours to come to St. Louis to speak to your assembly for 2 minutes so you can feel good about yourselves? We have our own issues in our own communities that we need to deal with. We are not going to carry your water for you. This is your work. You need to do it.' I was in St. Louis in 2006 at that opening ceremony, and I can tell you what happened next. Thunderous applause from the assembled delegates, followed by a General Assembly centered on exploring right relationships. Since that time, General Assemblies and many other large UU gatherings have included the presence and participation of right relationships teams. These are groups of laypersons and clergy whose job it is to be available and visible, to listen to concerns regarding right relationship, and to report those concerns to the larger body at daily intervals throughout the gathering. That's it. They listen and report. Any response or redress or apology or correction lies at the discretion and in the hands and hearts of the gathering planners, leaders, and all participants, who, it is hoped, act swiftly and decisively when necessary, and slowly and thoughtfully and prayerfully when necessary, with measures both profound and subtle. Listening and reporting are the first and not insignificant steps, the steps without which most of us would never know something was amiss for others among us. This approach to right relationship calls for courage and discernment on the part of those bringing issues to the attention of the right relationship team, tremendous, rock-solid, non-anxious presence on the part of the right relationship team itself to listen and report, but take no action, and courage and humility on the part of the event planners, leaders, and participants to listen deeply and non-defensively to the daily reports, allowing them to enter heart and mind and soul so that actions toward restoring right relationship can be undertaken. I suppose it could be said that it is fear, short-sighted and self-interested fear of a repeat of the 2006 Planning Committee's experience of rebuke and challenge that led me to be cautious of including Hanukkah in congregational worship. But I hope it is something deeper, more loving than simple fear. I hope it has more to do with my understanding that while Hanukkah is a fine festival with important themes and lessons and attractive rituals, it is neither a Jewish Christmas nor a Unitarian Universalist holiday. And we treat it as one or the other at the peril of our integrity and the respect of those among us who might be Jewish. In 2009, I spent a week in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, with about 400 Unitarian Universalist ministers from across Canada and the US. One evening, we were treated to a concert of folk music. The first act was two young Inuit women who offered a delightful demonstration of Inuit throat singing. They also showed us a couple of dance and explained their costumes and taught us a throat song. Inuit throat singing is a kind of game, a contest women have traditionally played to amuse themselves when men are hunting. Two women stand face to face, just inches apart from one another, and sing in an imitation of a natural sound, a goose, the wind, the river, until one of them laughs. Then the song ends, and the one who didn't laugh wins. It is amazing and hilarious, and you can see it, of course, on the internet. After singing several songs in this fashion, the women divided our gathering into two groups and led us in a song. Once we grew confident in the simple, repetitive sounds, as a body, without plan or direction, we stood and faced one another, one half of the room facing the other across the center aisle, and continued singing until we all laughed. Our teachers told us they'd never seen a group do that before. What energy and joy filled that room, despite the late hour and the long day of learning and discussion that had preceded the concert. And the next morning, as each morning, we heard the report from the Right Relations team about missteps, concerns, and wounds, and the need for healing that had been brought forth over the past 24 hours. It was enough to make one's head spin, if not ache, this joyous invitation into a culture, another culture, side by side, with an accounting of the ways we failed to honor and respect one another within our own unified yet diverse body. Yet both were holy. Our sense of joy and adventure and curiosity is holy. Our belief that traditions, wisdom, songs, words, and rituals from many sources can teach and nurture us is holy. Our calling one another to account for wrongdoing and carelessness and harm is holy. Our willingness to listen is holy. Our willingness to change is perhaps most holy still. Long before that St. Louis General Assembly, I was uncomfortable with the greetings from Native people for the exact reasons made so painfully public that year. And I've been frustrated almost to the point of inaction when confronted with simultaneous calls to multiculturalism and warnings about cultural misappropriation. And I'm glad we're grappling with this delicate balance. And perhaps I have, for the time being, stumbled onto the key to it all, at least for me. Here it is. Unitarian Universalists desperately, sincerely want to get it right. We never will. And that unresolvable tension is okay. It is the attempt over and over again that matters. Like the fish who would not fall for the fox's lure to live on dry land, like the Jews who at this season celebrate their refusal to assimilate and their continued existence as a people, we must also live in the river of our faith. We must not seek false safety or exotic temptation on foreign shores. The river of our faith, the rushing, gurgling, ever-changing river of our faith is rich with bends and eddies and rapids. The river of our faith is awash in tradition and fed by streams of fresh ideas from many sources. The rhythm of our faith sustains us through time and space with the knowledge that neither is revelation sealed nor is humanity preordained to a particular destiny. The river of our living faith moves us along in our lives, buoyed by the knowledge that blessing results from engagement and struggle and discernment, taking a stand and backing down, listening, reporting, and praying, apologizing and forgiving, trying to get it right, failing and trying again, and doing it all as often as possible with the joy of 400 weary ministers raising their voice in Inuit throat song. May it be so for each of us, and for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Savannah, and for our beloved faith. Amen. Will you rise in body or spirit for hymn number 299, Make Channels for the Streams of Love. It is said that on Hanukkah we are given part of the primordial light which has been hidden away since creation. The menorah reminds us that there remains a source of light deep inside us. The night is all around us, but the light is there for those who continue to fan it into flames. May we be among them. Amen.